Morning, guys. Ken, Hamad, and Chi Wing and cohort 3 for August 4th, 2024, small group coaching program. Um, my quick check-in, deep explorations with AI on the subject of what to do when the AI hallucinates. It turns out that that's a piece of creative possibility, meaning that most of the time it's useless. But once in a while, you get lucky and it becomes a new tangent to take off from the task you were on. And you just got to decide if the deviation is somehow connected to your project, in which case you have an entirely unexpected avenue to explore, which is what happens during human creativity. Like when I make a mistake in my prompt and I say, use this article, but it's the wrong article. And it gives me that, and I wanted to use that article. Well, the new unforeseen article introduces new possible connections that I hadn't anticipated, and then I get to evaluate that. So two the two weaknesses of AI, the fact that it doesn't have its own native creativity, we thought, and the fact that it can hallucinate are really part of the same thing. That's how the AI models creativity, probably unintentionally. I know it's unintentionally. It's a fat tail event. And like any moment of surprise, it becomes a moment of deep potential growth because something that you expected to happen didn't happen, or something that was unexpected happened. And somehow that's always connected to a deep difference between the way you think the world is and the way the world actually is. So when we're looking in our process for after action review, we look at that in 5 categories. We're thinking about what was the best thing, what was the least effective thing, what was the best takeaway, what are my unanswered questions. The fifth one is what was the moment of biggest surprise from that session? The best things we want to do more of. The least effective things, we at least want to understand what we were trying to do so we might find a better way to do that thing. And we want the student to know what our intention and purpose was and why we thought that thing would work. And maybe that's a shortcoming on their skill set. And that was their first introduction to something that didn't work today, but it may work tomorrow or the next day. So it's important to explain and explore the things that the students thought were not effective. It may just be, I need to shift to a new way of teaching, or it may be I just need to explain the purpose behind that so that they get exposed to a whole new way of thinking and feeling and processing. The best takeaways are things that we're certainly going to publish and share the artifact with others because they are immediately of value. The biggest unanswered questions are things that we assert we're going to come back, we promise, and answer it in writing. And then when you do that, it creates that sense of commitment that they know that you mean what you say and that this is a learning event that occurs beyond the limits of that moment in the classroom, but is connected to future events when we're going to continue to iterate towards excellence. And then with the surprise, what you do is you reflect on that and try to see what was the set of assumptions or expectations that proved not to be the case this time, and look to see if that means there needs to be an adjustment in your model of the world to account for this new potential that you did not expect. Now, maybe you knew it was a possibility, you just didn't think the fat tail event was going to occur, so be it. Was there anything in the situation that would have allowed you to see the arrival of that fat tail event? Did it have an announcement of its presence? Or did it genuinely just show up and there was nothing you could do about it? There was no warning. Really? There was no warning? Maybe. Well, that's why we have insurance for those events. But maybe there's something we can do in our sense and respond, our early warning systems that may give us better protection in the future. So the way we respond to those moments of surprise really allow us to unlock explosive potential development. The other ones are pretty straightforward. You just do the right thing with those results. But how you process surprise is kind of crucial. Wow. Yeah. So that's my check-in. That's what we're working on here. My I was working on mindset. Let me just complete that thought while we're here. So the Army has three categories of problems: structured, semi-structured, unstructured. For each one of those three categories of problems, we have an optimized method of solving the problem. If it's structured, we use troop leading procedures. Or in other words, we see the thing, we pick the battle drill and the SOP that is designed to solve that, and then we violently execute it with well-trained and resourced troops, and we ensure that we get to successful conclusion, and we study it. So structured problems are treated with the solution. We know what the solution is, and we just do it better than anybody else. Semi-structured problems are ones in which we use a rational utility model to analyze the mission, gather information, develop courses of action that are suitable, feasible, and acceptable, uh, unique, and different. And then we develop what that plan might look like, evaluate the outcomes, consider risk, choose the one that's best suited over most conditions to achieve the mission, and then we do that thing. So very rational problem solving that's based on information, solid processes, mostly science. And then we have unstructured problems in which that rational utility model doesn't work. It's outside of the bounds of our normal professional competence. And so we have to use design methodology, design thinking to go through an artful process of exploring it, seeing what kind of a problem is this? What does the environment look like? Make a decision to, speculating that if it's this kind of a problem, maybe I could do that. But if it's this kind of a problem, I could do something else. And so the commander and staff think their way through that until they are comfortable that they can convert the unstructured problem to a semi-structured problem, and then they hand that off to the staff to begin developing that rational utility model. But the design team continues to work until we get evidence from the staff that our little semi-structured approach seems to be paying off. And then we think, well, maybe we got that right. Maybe we actually did head in the right direction in a way that is allowing us to solve the problem. But until we get confirming evidence, we continue to develop the design thinking because more information is always coming in. And maybe that adds some additional. So we do a parallel process. Well, if that's your plan to solve the world's problems, then you better be adept at diagnosing the situation to decide what's the state of nature that I'm in, given my mission and my responsibility, so I can decide what kind of a problem I have, so I can then execute the well-trained strategy for solving those kinds of problems. I claim that the mindset that you bring into that situation is going to affect everything. The way you perceive, what your attitude is like when you're going through the process. And that really matters when you've got a team of guys going through, but it also matters, and it's more important when you're on your own and you're allowing that mind state of thinking and feeling to affect the way that you sense and respond in the world. So I started off by thinking, well, imagine a continuum that goes from naive optimism on one end to um, healthy skepticism in the middle to cynicism on the other end. I had a good adjective for it, but it was disgruntled cynicism, where I've already decided, this thing's going to fail. I started developing the comparison of how do each of those three mindsets work inside three types of problem solving strategies, and what could you do as the leader of the team to assess our individual and collective mindset as a way to watch out for problems or opportunities when I'm doing the problem solving. And then I realized, when it gave me a 9 by 9 matrix because it was three kinds of problems, three kinds of mindsets. You have 9 categories. And as the AI was iterating through that, it drifted off and it substituted three different mindsets: the fixed mindset, the growth mindset, and the benefit mindset. But I noticed that it had deviated. And I said, hey, use the original the mindsets or attitudes and just complete the task. And as I thought about it, I said, oh, you know what? That's actually a really good hallucination, because I realized that what you have is sort of a default broad mind state, which is the fixed mindset, growth mindset, benefits, which is what you think the world is like and what you're trying to do. So it's a rational choice, which with training could be shifted because all you got to do is change your mind. But the short term feelings coming from the gut, I don't know that you can train your way out of that. You can only sort of acknowledge it while you're in it, and you may shift from optimism to skepticism to cynicism and back and forth as you're moving along. And that one changes a lot. And it's the combination of your long term mindset and the short term feeling set, if I can say it that way, that really defines how you're working. I believe in a fixed mindset, but today I'm feeling just optimistic. Well, those two things taken together are going to affect me when I'm trying to do structured, semi-structured, and unstructured. So without that hallucination, I would have missed that altogether. But I recognized that it had potential. So the AI's hallucination actually prompted my creativity to find the solution, and I was able to confirm that I thought it fit, and then it developed those ideas out even further. And so now I've got this pretty sophisticated way to think about, as the leader of a team, how my guys are thinking and feeling. And then I said, now, as that leader, you've got to teach, coach, and mentor these guys, and you got to give them feedback about their performance that helps us solve this problem, but also helps them develop in the long term. So give me, AI, a communication strategy for each of those 9 different mindsets. I could have a fixed mindset that is optimistic, fixed optimistic, fixed skeptic, and fixed cynic. Now that's a guy that is hard to work with, tough nut to crack, because he believes the world is just like this. It's always going to be like this, and I'm going to be cynical about it. I've already decided that everything we're going to do is going to fail. Well, that's a tough guy to have on your team. But if you can reach him, you can actually take advantage of his particular approach which under certain circumstances is pretty helpful. Like he's a guy that's always going to be looking for ways to explain why your plan's going to fail. If you unleash him to do that, and then you have a satisfactory answer for all of his objections, that's a pretty good insurance policy. Now, I'd like him to develop other skills. But in the moment when we're trying to scramble to use every asset and resource we have to win this fight for our life, I'm going to use the tools I've been given. But I'm going to also try to develop him short term and long term by developing the coaching eye inside him and in myself. And the communication strategy I use with that guy is quite a bit different than if I go to the all the way to the other end and I say I've got a guy who's always an optimist and always has a growth mindset. Now you may think that's the kind of guy that you want to work with all the time. But think about what the potential for risk that guy brings to the table. That's the little monkey that wants to take every trade because all he can see is how it's going to win and compound and bring us to the land of milk and honey. In terms of danger to the team, that little mindset has its own set of consequences. And there are things that I got to do to help him see other aspects of the world if we're ever going to have him become a team leader. Because if he is infected with a growth mindset and eternal naive optimism, and I put him in charge of other people, and that's unregulated, oh my goodness, that could go spinning off into disaster. So I say all that simply to say I now have a communication strategy for all 9 of those mental, emotional mind states that solve short-term problems and long-term problems. And I had no intention at 3 o'clock this morning to do that until the hallucination happened and I saw the potential. I said, well, I better get this on tape before I go to sleep so I don't forget it. And, when I'm working like that, I'm in the flow state. Um, I'm not actually tired. It's probably good for my soul and spirit. And that's what you do when you have the energy like that. What are you going to do with it? Easier to get it on paper and get it out of your head to go to sleep perfectly relaxed. And then when you go to sleep after a good piece of work like that, give gratitude and forgiveness for the work that you just did, but go to sleep with an intention, because if you just put that out into the world and made an artifact, you now have some openings, some open volume for the universe to provide some dreams to you to think about. And it becomes a virtuous circle. So I woke up this morning with some more ideas that I'm not going to talk about because I'm here to coach. Dang it. But that's my check-in. So that was pretty good for an unrehearsed presentation, I have to say. That's one of the things that happens when you work with a well-organized, thoughtful, good communicating AI. It sharpens the way you think and speak. It improves your internal thought process, which then manifests in improved external communication, both written and oral. I've just noticed that in myself. It just getting better day by day, as the K-pop group Mamamoo would say. Get better day by day. All right, give me a check in and let's get going, fellas.
I not much on my end. Took a few days off last week. Kind of struggled the last 2 weeks to generate any momentum in terms of building my P&L bricks. And I was a bit knocked off my zero state, decided to take a few days off, was feeling a bit burnt out. So I took 3 days off and got back to work today, just ran some numbers since it was the end of the month. And yeah, looking for ways to improve on what I've done before. I hope.
Yep. Yeah, I want you to spend some time with the model that I'm about to send you that has the that describes those mind states, because we got to monitor that in ourselves. And I knew you had taken a couple days off, and I was almost, gnashing my teeth because of the huge directional moves on Thursday and Friday. It's like, God dang it. Because your normal process brings the heat on exactly that kind of day. And it's like, God damn it. Well, but if you can learn to just get to be in the zero state from missed opportunities, then you will remember that you don't have to push too hard to make things happen on days when it's not doing that. Like, stay true to your rules. Don't try to overdo it. Take what it is. When you're in traffic and it's not moving, don't move, because you're
Mhm.
only going to run into things and whatever.
Yeah.
So there's a teachable moment in that for us too. But you might just replay those 2 days to kind of see what to do and how your rules behave on those 2 days specifically. That's like a back test or rehearsal for what to do on those momentum days. And the thing is, we knew on Thursday night that Friday could be exactly that kind of day. All of the indicators were saying, yeah, tomorrow, really good chance for a range stat kind of day because of reasons. And sure enough, the Dow moved 600 points. On Thursday, the Dow moved 500 points. Wow, big move. Friday, 600 points. Now, what do you think Monday's going to be? I don't know, but it's going to be big. I have
Yeah.
no I have no idea how big it's going to be, but it's going to be big. Just don't know which direction. Well, thankfully, there's only two, and we'll just follow the rules, which means we'll follow the price.
Yeah.
Jay Wing, what do you got for us?
I'm doing good here. So for a couple of 1 or 2 weeks, so basically I mean on the during the review side, I'm trying to improve on my short position. So on the Thursday is that when I sit there for 30 minutes, I see that the market is not moving, it's the moving down while
Yeah,
I'm sitting there doing nothing. So I decided to take a one position. I saw a short by percent gains, and I take the one that will a bigger loss, and I take it and it's success. Then after that I take another two. Then I call it, yeah, that's how I'll try moving forward. I'll try using this method to try to get
yeah.
my, yeah,
I
the
was
short and
also thinking about you on Thursday and Friday, saying, boy, if there was ever a day to practice the short side, that's the day.
yeah.
Because I just got to tell you, on days like that, when most of the world is suffering, we should actually be having sort of the easiest, cleanest decisions. Now, it's always going to be excited and adventurous, but finally, the thing that we were ever worried about is actually happening. And if we can follow it, then we can turn our greatest fear into our greatest joy, or at least a good day at work. I don't have to get a lot of joy out of it. I just want to make money. That's all. I just want to turn the moment of fear into a usable moment. Okay. Uh, good check-ins. Good to see where you are. Do you have any screens to share or presentations to go? Or are we good to go, or how are we feeling?
Um, I kind of, since it was month end, I kind of
Yeah,
went through I noticed in your swing trading book, you have your
yeah,
monthly checking questions.
yeah,
So I kind of have my own, but I decided to use yours since it just felt a bit more
yeah,
um wider in scope and a bit more detailed, I guess, because you've had more practice on it than I have. So I've used your template for it. I'm happy to share that and then kind of discuss some of the changes I propose.
yeah.
Just
Let's
kind of
do
have
it.
a brainstorming session, see if they're worth
Let's do that.
considering.
Let's do that.
Um, so screen two.
You know,
Sure.
that whole template came from somebody asking me a question of what could I do on a monthly evaluation, and that list was, well, let me be as comprehensive as I can be in one shot, and that's what came out. And I'm pretty satisfied with it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Got me thinking about some of the things that worked and all. So just quickly, like this is my performance for the month of July. My win rate is much lower than it's much lower than it was in June.
Yep.
My expectance is negative, not much, but yeah, it's still negative. The cumulative R took a hit towards the end of the month. In terms of daily R capture, basically this month was a negative -2R in
Yep.
total. So yeah, not quite happy about how I traded in July. And
Well, just notice that was that one bad day at the end of it.
yeah,
Now, if that's a green bar and going up, then notice your feelings.
yeah,
And so you just say, all right, I gotta now so I gotta say it's not a bad month. It had one bad day at the end of that month that tipped the
mhm,
scale. So, okay. And there's 2 days minus not total -9, it makes, which is half the performance.
yeah, yeah,
So, all right, we'll just that'll happen sometimes you hit a pothole.
yeah,
The car, we got to have a good suspension system and shock absorbers, and
yeah.
make sure that hasn't shaken anything loose in our mechanical operating system. You know, I got to check my oil and all that and all the mechanical features to be expected.
Yeah. I
Okay.
guess for me on this day, it was like, okay, so like I think by this time, by the 30th of July, I was like, even if a CD walked by me and begged me to take it,
Yeah.
and I took it,
Yeah.
I would have gotten out with the loss. Even if it was like the best CD with like a
Yeah.
20% collapse, 3 range set moves in one bar, I would have messed it up because just mentally I wasn't in the right place. So,
Yeah. Let me just insert this right here. I had a brainstorm session the other night, Friday night, and we were imagining an app. How are you feeling right now in the zero state? What is your mindset? And just at the start of the day, at the end of the day, at the
yeah,
start of a trade, at the end of this trade, in the middle of the trade, just or every time the tone rings, check my zero state status, dump
yeah.
all that into the database, and then it becomes a histogram of zero state posture and mindset. Keep that on a little until we
Yeah.
get an app built for that. Keep a little note sheet, and just kind of plot on I'm gonna come up with some kind of screen on that. And
It's interesting you say that. I was
yeah.
watching the Olympics today. I was watching the archery competition,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah,
there was this Korean guy, and he had six, or was it something crazy like 9 shots in a row where he just got 10, 10, 10,
yeah,
10, and they were measuring his heart rate per minute,
yeah,
and he would somehow maintain it below 90, somewhere around 88
yeah,
beats per minute, while his competitor would be at 100.
yeah,
And as the other archers came along and started, shooting and all of that, you can see which
yeah.
ones would actually score like high points because their heart rates are very low,
Right.
typically below 90.
Steady
One of the
position, steady
yeah,
position, and breath control.
exactly. Steady
Now,
position,
now
breath
you know
control.
why the Koreans have won 9 gold medals in a row. Nobody else ever wins. It's always the Koreans because the way they select their team, it doesn't matter what you did last year. Everybody starts on an equal footing. And in the course of their competition, they shoot 20,000 arrows. 20,000 arrows. And the best shooters from that set are on the team. You get no extra cheese if you were last Olympics gold medal. Or if you're this year's world champion, you get up on the line just like everybody else and shoot your 20,000 arrows. And each arrow is one more arrow in the next 20,000. I mean,
Exactly.
that's an inspirational thing just to, and the way that they sort of stoically proceed through good times, bad times. The one that just really broke my heart was they had a little zoom in movie of a girl who I think she may have been Chinese, but she's all set and ready to go. And at the moment of release, a bee lands on the tip of the arrow and deflects it.
Oh.
I mean, come on. Really, nature? Is that what we're going to do to this kid? You know how hard she worked to get there?
Yeah.
And at the moment of release, a bee, and she can see it. It lands right on the tip of her arrow. And she's already, pulled the trigger, or released the. That was like, well, can I learn to let that one go
Yeah.
and go to the next shot? How quickly can I get into the zero state? The one I love is you probably have seen the Turkish pistol.
Oh yeah.
Air pistol.
That guy you.
Dude just puts down his beer, walks up, hand in his pocket, shoots bullseyes. Holy smokes. And he had one bad shot, he got a 7, and the other guy had a 10. And that was the difference. That was the difference between gold and silver.
Yeah.
Man, oh man, oh man. That dude is rock solid. But I watch their face before, during, and after. You cannot tell from their face when the shot is taken.
Yeah.
They have surrendered to their process, but they've also trained that process, righteously. So, that's what I was thinking about what to do with that kind of that day. That's where it was.
Yeah.
But it's not a bad month. It
No.
simply has the results of a month. But that shows you how thin, the margin of excellence is, and why that's the nature of that market. It's very well refined and is constantly probing.
Yeah.
I got it. It's constantly probing.
Yeah.
Got to deal with that. All right, keep going.
So basically these were my numbers. Of course, in retrospect, there were days that I missed out on where I could have made 4 or 5 hour.
Yep.
Not just the last 2 days. There were some days
Right.
mid-month, but I missed out on because of the family issues. But yeah, that's kind of where I am. And so kind of looking at my monthly review questions, what worked for me this month, DIA worked really well. In fact, it generated all the P&L.
Yeah.
EWW and EWZ failed me, both of them. It's typically one would fail me and the other one would pick up the slack, but this time both of them kind of failed me. I think I traded well in the first
I
few
mean,
days
think
of-
about that as a coin flip, right?
Yeah.
If they're both heads, it's double good. If there's one heads and one tails, it's a scratch. If both fail, it's a loss.
Yeah.
And that's 1/4 of the time.
Yeah, I think
So we gotta think about that philosophically too. And
yeah, see, kind of thinking about that, it puts me in this kind of situation where I feel like I've got concentration risk by actually trading EWZ and EWW because
yeah,
I'd say more frequently than not they would move together.
yeah, exactly.
So maybe if I'm gonna maintain a standard sort of template of these are my targets, maybe replace one of them.
Yep.
with
I would keep Mexico myself. I just think,
okay.
I mean, compare your stats with them and you make your decision.
Yeah.
I just like Mexico because I think it flies under the radar a little more than Brazil does. I don't know. That's my intuition.
Yeah.
And then I think I'd trade one of those two for energy or finance.
Energy or finance.
Yeah, Because I think that really gives you a distinct. Those are the two that are least correlated to DIA
Okay.
and have big moves.
Mm,
And energy gives you Devon.
yeah.
I might consider instead of F, XLI and Cliff, because to me, Devon and Cliff are really pure expressions of XLE and XLI. So, I mean,
XLI or XME? Because Cliff is XME, right? Sorry.
yeah, XLE is energy, and
Yep.
that's Devon Energy DVN.
Yeah, that's Devon and XOM and
Yeah, and then XLI Industrials is kind of like CLF because it's a steel
okay.
company. And both Cliff and Devon just continue to be excellent trading vehicles. I mean, just
Yeah, they do.
and they're foundational. I mean,
Yeah.
they get moved around by the sector and market quite a bit, but they also have their own company volatility, which tends to make the moves bigger and more directional.
Mm,
Now, because they're individual companies, they're not as liquid
yeah.
as the XLs, but
Yeah.
they're liquid enough. And Luke Crockford in Australia traded nothing but CLF for an entire year, and that turned him into a professional trader. And that was we used. I used that same strategy with Griff. I substituted DIA in Brazil for him, but I think in terms of adding a different target or trading it, I'd pick one or the other of EWW or EWZ. You make your judgment on that.
Yeah.
And then consider XLE for sure and Devon. And then I think XLI and Cliff.
Yeah.
My first thought on XLF finance was that you got to have an equivalent in finance to,
Mm,
and I don't like any of the individual banks for that. But KRE, the regional banks, is like a smooth, liquid, aggressive form of XLF. So I would actually, you have XLF, the conservative finance sector. That's the big banks like Morgan.
yeah.
But KRE is U.S. regional banks, which tends to move in tandem with XLF, but have more volatility, and it's also has plenty of volume.
Okay.
So that'll give you some things to consider for target selection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Now, a
okay.
number six on there,
Yeah.
you got to have something that you're proud of. You're not looking hard enough.
Yeah.
You're disrespecting that side of the equation because of feelings. Or are you? I don't know. But that was a whole month of trading.
Yeah.
Don't neglect that side because otherwise you get drift. That's how you get drift. If you're not careful, that's how you drift into the cynicism side, out of skeptic and into cynicism. We don't want that.
Yeah.
If you disregarded the regret and only did the positive, proud, my danger is to the other side of the road, the naive optimism, the problem with positive psychology,
Yeah.
which says I can replace all of my concerns about the shortcomings with a double scoop of positivity, happy talk. I don't trust that.
Yeah.
And that says more about me than about positive psychology, but I've also seen what happens when you neglect the early warnings from the environment and you try to just whistle past the graveyard.
Mm,
I've lived too long to just go I think positive psychology taken too far leads to naive optimism. I can see how in skepticism, but with a bright, sunny disposition and a way to make sure that I'm always finding and enjoying and rewarding the positivity, but I only need a scoop of ice cream. I don't need to eat the whole container, for crying out loud.
Mm.
But if I don't give it its proper place at the table, my vector is shifting over towards just the negative side, and I'm not enjoying. I'm running the machine without grease, and it just I get that metal on metal wear. I get metal fatigue, and maybe that's what you're feeling at the end of June. I don't know, or end of July.
Yeah, I think at the end of July, I just kind of I felt a bit too fatigued and burnt out.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
I
if you
mean,
remember our last check-in, you had really come to a strong end of that chapter or that phase to consider other things. That means you just completed a long set of work, and we got to build in the reset time.
yeah,
Yeah, I know. Here's what it was. It's naive optimist, healthy skeptic, and dismissive cynic.
yeah.
The cynic is dismissing any new information. I already know.
Mm-hmm.
The optimist says, I already feel. The skeptic says, all right, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Let me see. Let me look all around, see what's going on. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. I think so kind of yeah, towards the end I was feeling hopeless. I was feeling hopeless, I was feeling trapped, I was feeling like, will I ever get out of this? Will I ever, get my performance to a level where, if I speak to external, let's say, parties for funding or kind of plugging and playing into their platforms or whatever, would I be taken seriously? So, of course, the answer to that is we don't know. But what I know is what I can do tomorrow, which is kind of head down and keep on marching.
Yeah, so think about what that is going to allow you to do in the future. When a person is deciding to put money with you, and they're going to ask you an honest, penetrating question. It says, what do you do when your system starts underperforming? And you can say, well, my system has underperformed with under control. Like in this section right here, here's what was happening, here's what I did to respond, and here's how I adapted, and here's
Yeah.
how I maintained my discipline and professionalism through that period of time. I
Mm.
followed these strategies to adapt to that moment.
Yeah.
And then when the system resumes, I was immediately able to continue following the price. So not only is that my plan for the future, it's my anchored in evidence actual plan. It's what I actually do when that happens.
Mm.
That's what you care about, not what I say I'm going to do in some future that's trying to spin you.
Yeah.
So that's the teachable moment that comes out of this.
Mm-hmm.
That allows you to remain. That's the coaching eye looking at your own performance when you feel that way. Well,
Yeah.
if you know that and put that into a procedure, which you document from your journal, when you feel yourself short-term assessment going in there, maybe that's why I opened up this session this morning with that discussion of the mindset. You have what's my long-term rational default position with the world? Fixed mindset, growth mindset, benefit mindset.
Mm.
And then how am I feeling? I'm optimistic. Am I optimistic or am I naively optimistic? If I have moved out of skeptic into naively optimistic, I've gone too far. If I'm skeptical with an optimistic feeling, I'm in the zero state I want to be in. I'm
Mm.
still primarily skeptical, but I do have positive, affirmative feelings that what I'm doing is well aligned, and I have the comfort of knowing I'm on the professional path. That's so skeptical with a pinch of optimism.
Yeah.
I'd rather be that than skeptical with a pinch of pessimism. I'd like to be perfectly rationally skeptical and emotionally skeptical. Except I don't even like that. I'd like to have a affirmative tone towards one step towards positive, optimism for me,
Yeah.
in order to give me the emotional energy that keeps going. And I fill that bank account, I fill that optimistic gas tank from the evidence of all the reasons to have optimistic feelings about the future. It's a universe that's driven by love, not hate. Love endures and dominates and wins in the long run. And there's reasons to be persistently holding on to that little crystal of optimism.
Yeah.
How does Viktor Frankl somehow survive life in a concentration camp? Because eternal optimism.
Yeah.
Regulated by stoicism and reality. He was making no delusions about where he was, but unbreakable spirit, optimism. So, not naive optimism, because that's where people crumble.
Yeah.
That's what the Stoics say also. People who had the Stoic mindset in Vietnam, in the Hanoi Hilton, in the prisoner of war camps, what Vice Admiral Stockdale wrote about. He was a Stoic philosophy professor at West Point before he, had become a pilot and got shot down and spent 7 years in solitary confinement in Vietnam and came out of it a better man. Whereas other guys who were not stoic, who were naively optimistic, ended up breaking because it couldn't sustain them because of the area they were in. And when they crumbled, it was worse. So I want to be on that side of the wall, the stoic wall that protects us against the forces of evil. I'm going to be optimistic because we're going to win this. If not me today, then me tomorrow. And if not me tomorrow, then my tribe in the day after, because we're going to win this thing, that spirit is what keeps you going. Okay, keep going.
Again, the challenges that I felt this week was overtrading in choppy markets, maintaining the zero state, and then the biggest one for me was, it kind of goes with point number one there, that the symbols didn't move, and I guess I was trying to make them move. And the lessons learned is I need to learn how to detect choppy environments, forgive and forget, and then learn more about swing systems so that I have another system that would hedge against a system underperforming or me underperforming. It kind of highlights the importance of having another system that requires less involvement from me, in order to kind of capture a few hours as time is progressing,
Yeah.
and then this kind of reduces the stress already on my intraday system in the long term. With six, talking to people too early. I think that's a big mistake that I made this week, and the other mistake about it was allowing that to affect me. And then of course,
So why do you need to talk to somebody about it? Well, because you want to document it in public and make that claim and share the good ideas and share the good news. So that's an area I got to find a way to scratch that itch. One of the things that your journal will do and your accountability partners, people who are in the know and can carry some of that weight for you, that have a coaching eye, that can be on the lookout for what it means, knowing that we go through those seasons.
Yeah.
And I don't bring work home.
Yeah.
In that sense, into the family space.
Yeah.
I have a home office, but that's a workspace.
Yeah.
So that's an important, and I will tell you, I've had, as a coach, I've actually inflicted that on people sometimes when a guy was finally had broken through, and I said, "Hey, it looks to me like you've finally broken through," and he took that as a license to go nuts and to try to do more. And now he's free to go. No, what I should have been saying was no, you now know that your process exactly that brought you here is what you should be going forward with and feeling optimistic, but stoic and realistic. And so we didn't regulate that. And that actually created expectations pressure. So, if anything, as a coach, every time I feel you optimistic or I feel a trader being optimistic about what they're doing, part of me says, let them have this moment.
Yeah.
But part of me also says, I got to regulate that by having a counterweight to keep us on that band of excellence. If the right down the middle is pure stoic, it's okay to be optimistic about it and confident, but not further. We gotta have that. It's the same way. What is the ideal zero state? Not emotional neutral, but for me, slightly aggressive and confident and positive, but really alert and forward leaning, looking up 5 bars ahead and looking 5 bars ahead with my eyes for the next turn, the road ahead, but trusting my feet to find the step
Yeah.
and trusting my hands to do the job, but using my longer term peripheral vision to be studying that road without taking my eyes off that moment where I'm at.
Mhm.
But if you've watched the road ahead of you, you're continuing to estimate what it is as it gets closer and closer. And when the rubber actually meets the road, you're not looking at the road where your wheels are. You've already done all the work ahead of time, and you can trust your hands and feet to keep it right there. So you got to be looking that forward, that little forward piece. So that's what I would say about the feelings and talking about those, talking about the performance. Let them discover
Yeah.
what you're doing. You're just doing your thing and you're marking your trip. If that line is going up, you don't even need to say anything about it.
Yeah.
That line is, how are things going at work?
Yeah.
All systems normal.
Yeah.
Just working here, you know. I think that's that emotional regulation at that level
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah, that typically I don't speak to anybody, but this time I decided to get my dad involved because
Yeah.
kind of like there was a bit of me that wanted to show off, and then the second thing was he's a consultant in business excellence and quality. So I wanted to have his feedback on some of my processes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like the conversation kind of brought up a lot of childhood memories and
Sure.
trauma. So like I didn't react to it at the time, but it took me a few days to regulate the emotions built up, and then kind of the results out of me.
Well, if nothing else, the the style of continuous improvement that we're doing should give you the right language to talk to him about that kind of work.
Yeah.
He should be able to recognize that behavior in you with the type of words you use.
It's It's funny you mentioned that. I saw a chart on his office, and it was exactly what we were talking about with regards to the RL90 and like the performance limits. And I was like, that's exactly what I was showing him.
Yeah.
But anyways, um, so some of the attitudes and actions that I'll take next month is like I want to slow down and implement a strategy called that I thought about 2 shots aim, 2 shots aim.
Yeah.
So that would be like take
Yeah.
2 shots. If they don't
Yeah.
work out, stop for a while.
Double tap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, so before I forget,
Yeah.
think about the relationship and the conversations you're having with him. And think about adding the overlay of a co-creator and fellow co-conspirators, fellow co-consultants,
Hmm.
in addition to being father and son.
Yeah.
But give him a chance to express that side of him to a fellow co-creator.
Yeah.
And think about reframing that in a gentle way to see is there, because that's one of the ways to manage and process trauma
Yeah.
is to say, hey, all those feelings are still there, but I've sort of desensitized it. It's now just becoming an episode of history as
Mm.
opposed to a living monkey in the room with me.
Yeah.
And the way you do that is kind of shift the terms of engagement a little bit.
Yeah.
Think about that gradual release of responsibility model from father to son
Mm.
works the same way as it does from teacher to student in that sense.
Yeah.
And there's something in that.
Okay. Some of the lessons learned is I need a bit of diversification in my portfolio because like
Yep.
I need a bit of volatility, you know. Again, like as you said, speak to no one about results, except people who are in the circle. And one thing that I have kind of struggled with a lot, and this could be one of the hindrances that or one of the bad habits that I picked up from market making is learning when not to trade, learning when
Yeah.
to sit on my hands.
Yeah.
Um,
So one of the things you'll notice is that when you have found the right balance in your lineup, is that you always have something to trade.
mm,
The times when none of the symbols in your portfolio are moving is starting to reduce. But then when there's nothing to trade, it's time to not trade. It's time to do the next. What is the thing that you do that has equal value to the equity line, to the equity curve? Not trading when it's time not to trade improves your equity curve.
yes.
And so you probably want to create 5 mantras with that, 5 pieces of wisdom connected with that, so that when it's that time, you can ring the bell and say, remember these things, and then this is
Yeah.
what I do. This is how I
Yeah.
remember what I'm supposed to do, and then these are the things that I'm supposed to do. And that gets to the feelings and actions. I recognize the situation. This is how I think about that situation and feel about it. A professional would not be trading. A professional would be doing these things. Complete that before, during, and after phase that gets you out of the limiting over trading.
Mm,
The far state is what I should be doing, flowing with water and regenerating and rewarding. And in the middle is the how I process that trade. So these are I recognize them in the situation. This is how I should think about it. And then when I take these actions, I begin to feel differently, and it moves me over into the other. So it's that 3-stage transition model to not trading in that market condition.
yeah.
So start mapping that, draw that picture for yourself of what that looks like.
Yeah. So that in terms of my beliefs, I used to have a very strong belief that I can't find the movers. But as I'm learning more about swing systems, and I guess one of the things I'm trying to do is, or one of the things that I want to do is apply the swing systems on the Excel series. And then if one of them pops and there's an
Yep.
entry,
Yep.
and then that entry kind of coincides with let's say a 10-minute pattern.
Yeah.
Take the trade if it's a 2R winner.
Turbo. Yep.
Yeah, basically turbo it. So and that's something that I was doing with XLK. The past 2 days I was trading it because it flagged as an MPRC, and then it had 2 swing patterns on it. So I just kind of kept an eye on it. And then the day it broke out and moved, it was a big mover. So
Yeah, think about what I can't find the movers, and yet when I look back, I see that there were some things moving. I just didn't see them.
yeah.
You're too close to the target.
Mm-hmm.
if you stand back and learn to relax your focus and look at the wider patterns, you'll notice the thing that moves, because that's the way our visual cortex is wired, is to detect the differences in movement. Everything is static and there's the movement. So it immediately
Yeah.
draws to it. So if you're overly focused on this little thing, I can't see over there, because the very power of focus that allows us to fine tune means that we got to wall off the perception to the other things. So we got to be able to zoom in and zoom out with the same ease that we adjust a camera lens.
Yeah.
Your alert system on your desktop and dashboard is the autofocus feature.
Yeah.
So I got to have confidence and a process that allows it to robo-scan, alert, focus, alert, focus, act, back out. And so you got to be able to move in, strike, and then out, in, decide, out. And trading at the level of risk that is manageable for the long term allows you to go in, do the thing, and get out.
Yeah.
Go in there, crack the egg, let it cook, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So that kind of brings me back to some of the good things I did. Investing in the swing system course has been really good. Just kind of seeing how I haven't gone through the entire course. I'm still going through, like, I think my next lesson is going through the backtesting functionality of EdgeRater.
Yeah.
Because I bought that as well, and kind of shows me all the scans. So I'm really interested. Like, I'm really excited about, backtesting things and seeing out how some of my ideas could work out.
Yeah.
So this is like one of the good things that I did this month, I think, investing
Yeah, I
time
will
in.
tell you that's such a good course. I mean, I put the teaching the swing trade systems on hold because I thought I had said everything on it that I needed to say. But I've gotten recently re-energized and excited about it because of the power of EdgeRater to quickly sift through all the different possibilities and potentials. The day trading is much more about simple pattern, violently executed, maintain your energy and emotional state, trust your hands, don't cut your own fingers off. Swing trading has a lot more nuanced decision making to do that should be anchored in analysis and testing this and that.
Yeah.
And that's tiresome if you don't have an robust process to quickly do that. That's such a power tool. I mean, wow. It's quite something. All right, keep going.
So the proposed changes that I had for July are here. Let me zoom in a bit. So I put my challenges in kind of two categories in July. There was the psychological category, which, I think, don't talk to anybody about results. That's going to be like one of the rules I have. If one of my investors asks me, of course, I'll let them know. But no external. And then I need to plan a holiday this month. More rest days, research days, or long weekends every month, just to kind of, because I end up doing somewhere between 10 to 11 hours of work every day.
Yeah. You gotta, like a weightlifter, you gotta program the recovery day. That's when the muscle is repairing in order to actually get stronger.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're tearing the muscle down, but not allowing it to rebuild. And you can't sustain that long term.
Yeah.
The other thing I want you to do on this one is wait 24 hours, listen to this session again, carefully listening in the way that you do with the Cornell notes to document the possible and considerations and things to do.
Yeah.
Think about that best thing, least effective thing, best takeaways, unanswered questions, and the surprise moments. Put that template on this dialogue and then just take the notes to see what you come up with.
Yeah.
That's also the process that you should do, when you're doing the daily after action review.
Yeah.
It's sort of, hey, best thing, worst thing, call it the worst thing. It's least effective means that's a hat tip towards people get their feelings hurt and they don't want to, I don't want to have a worse thing. Oh, okay, so it's least effective. Shut up. It's the worst. Best thing, worst thing, best takeaway, unanswered question, and surprise. So
Yeah.
best, worst, takeaway, question, surprise.
Yeah.
And it turns out there's a symbol for each one of those. Plus sign, minus sign, check mark for takeaway,
Yeah.
question mark for question, exclamation point for surprise.
Yeah.
So get you a little 5x8 card, put those 5 headers in there. And as you're going through, taking notes, put them in that category.
Yeah.
When you're looking at your daily after action review card, put that 5 pieces of feedback in there too, as this part B of that. Yeah, plan, prepare, execute, assess, sustain, improve, and whatnot. But as you're thinking about those things, they fall into those categories of best, worst, takeaway,
Yeah.
question, surprise. Think about, yeah, wait 24 hours, listen to this process, and then be systematic about extracting all of the insights.
Yeah.
And then tell me how that goes.
Will do. Will do. So yeah, we kind of spoke about some of the proposed changes from a system perspective.
Yeah.
I guess look for targets in critical states. It seems that I've improved in this area. In terms of execution, I want to add a rule that says, like we just said, 2 shots, take a step back, kind of assess what's happening again, and then 2 shots again if you have to. But I think taking a step back to breathe, look at the big picture, look at what's happening. Do I have the right target? Do I need to change? I think that makes sense. I want to maintain the 10 minutes and I want to maintain a maximum of 3 targets. I think with 4, just the quality goes down. I mean, if I really have to,
it drops off like falling off a cliff.
Yeah. I make too many mistakes. Initially, I was thinking I'll look at these sectors, but I guess we thought about XLF.
Make a decision tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. In terms of plan, I'll look at a very set few number of symbols. I don't want them to be more than 10. I'll look for swing patterns, sniper patterns, location on NDX, and then patterns on the 30 minutes. I think patterns on the 30 minutes.
Start with the MPRC.
Yeah.
The most reliable combination of on 10-day MPRC.
Yeah.
It is actually an abbreviated form of the sniper. It's looking at 10-day extremes and abnormal squeeze.
Abnormal volatility, yeah. Very quiet. Yeah. And then all you got to do then is wait for a yellow zone breakout, and that's your trade.
Yeah. Now the thing that the other end of that is when it is the range compression at the 10-day high. That's the polar opposite. And I don't usually trade that one because I always get it wrong. But that's its partner in crime.
Yeah.
But the other one just makes me feel better because I remember that I'm buying it on sale. And then if it fails, I know, well, there's a reason why it was on sale. They were trying to clear the inventory. So it's easier for me to justify the big move in either direction. When it's already at the top in a doji, sometimes I think, hey, all those guys are content. There's no fear here whatsoever. It's just a pause. It doesn't have the same power to persuade me that there's a big move coming. But if it's at max pain range compression, dude, I'm in. That's an asymmetric abnormality.
Yeah. The other thing that kind of like, I think whatever whatever symbols I'll be looking at, and whatever kind of planning I mean, I think this is the planning process. It's not going to change much. In terms of execute, like I guess this is part of prepare, but I like keeping it an execute because this is what I would do.
Yeah.
When the market opens, right?
Yeah.
I think take the largest gap up, largest gap down out of the targets and just trade the OR10, see how it goes. And then I guess the second set of targets would be like any completed patterns on the 30 minutes. And then if I have a swing system or a sniper pattern, then I only trade it if it's if I get a yellow zone breakout. So that's how I'm thinking about kind of arranging my thought process during the open.
Yeah.
I guess prior to the coaching, when I was like looking at 25 symbols, this part was really giving me a headache for me to kind of sort it out and have it in a written form or in a worksheet form so I can work through it.
Yeah.
But I think with fewer symbol, I can be more accurate about executing this part. Yeah, so yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there are any like specific thoughts that you guys have on this. Kind of starting out with the largest gap up and down, and then if nothing meets that target, then any patterns that I completed, any symbols any targets that I completed the pattern on the 30-minute chart, and then that's it.
What's tell me again 3. What is YZ breakout?
Oh, yellow zone breakout.
Oh, yellow's up duh.
So if I have
Yep.
like a swing pattern or a sniper pattern and I get a yellow zone
Yep.
breakout, then
Yep.
that's the only time I play it. Unless sniper pattern has double V on it, on the 5 days and the 1 day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then if by after 60 minutes, I'll arrange the targets by percent change, and it feels like a lot of steps. It feels like a lot of steps, and yeah, it feels like a lot of steps, and I'm not sure. Like I'm not like it feels like some of the points are
Yeah, well, so is open heart surgery, but that guy's got it down to a battle drill.
yeah.
So it's as complicated as it is. So
Yeah.
we can make it the critical path and very efficient. But a Swiss watch is complicated, but it's precise. And when it's working, it works perfectly.
Mhm.
It's not necessarily robust, but that's what you're trying to find is the right balance in there.
Yeah. I guess kind of using that terminology, like I think knowing how to execute and like with 3 targets, you're robust, but then and this is why I really care about learning how to find the mover.
Yeah.
It makes me anti-fragile, to use Nassim's language, because that will help me adapt to whatever changes the market throws at me to some extent in the future. And that's why I guess my fascination or my I'm like I forgot like I forgot the terminology, but why my obsession with finding the mover, because I feel like by being able to find the mover, you're slightly more adept to changing environments rather than having fixed targets. And I don't know. Yeah. So that's kind of where I am with my thinking. And
I think you're in good shape here.
Yeah.
You're where you need to be.
Okay. But yeah, I think the big 2 things for me is expanding the list of symbols, but not too much. I don't want it to be more than 10. And then I think this one is really big. Like this idea I thought about it this weekend and it just made a lot of sense to me. Because typically what would happen is, when I was trading DIA, EWW, and EWZ, is that, one of them would be a 2 or 3 hour winner. And so I can afford a 1 hour loss at one and another 1 hour loss at the other. Because if I take the OR3, that's, let's say, 0.4, and then the next trade, most likely I try to structure it so that it's 0.8. And so that I'm already down 1.2. 2 symbols not moving, I'm already at 2.4. And then I'm like, oh, what do I do? I'm kind of stressing about the next one and not trading it really well. Yeah.
Okay. I think we're in good shape here.
Yeah. Sorry. Sorry if I take it too long.
You've taken just enough time.
I'm glad. Thanks. Here, I'll stop sharing if Chiwang wants to share.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm gonna stop sharing now. I'm
Sorry.
I'm gonna pass the baton to Chi Weng. Let's say it that way.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, you can see my screen.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So for the past 2 weeks, basically I'm reviewing during my assessment phase, I review bar by bar to imagine myself how I trade for the short positions. So uh so that's why I become a bit more confident now to take the shots. That's why on the Thursday when I saw that
Yep.
basically after 30 minutes the market didn't really moving up, is
Yeah,
is keep moving down.
those three target shots on your trade sequence plot, those were the short side trades that work well.
Yeah.
And just reflect on the irony and the sense of humor that the universe has. It's just sharing a moment for you to just enjoy yourself and your place in the world with it. You know, because we did an elaborate, rational, professional process to say, I am not gonna do those trades at all.
Yeah.
And the universe rewarded that moment of insight with a little bit of free chicken.
Yeah.
And now it wants to see what you do with unexpected good fortune.
Yeah. I think the main let's say the benefit is that when I see that there's no setup for the long, because let's say I already decided to only take the long. That's why when I don't see the setup for the long, I would not uh rush into, I will not try to force to take the long position. I learn to how to sit on the hands
Yeah.
by not moving. Basically, I'm just waiting for it. I'm basically the
Yeah.
time I'm just moving for it to go make a morning hold and
Yeah.
going long and short. That's why I'm more in a calm state, zero state, and
Yeah.
just observing.
You know,
And while
think about it this way. Try thinking about it this way. The more passionate and excited I feel about the long side trade opportunity that is setting up, the better the short trade is when that happens.
Yeah.
You know, you don't go short because there nothing seems to be going on and I'm trying to make it up. No, that's why the worse harsh winter it is that has resulted in a doji is the maximum opportunity on the SSC, which is precisely the collapsing dragon that works best if it goes that way. So the better you love the long side, the more prepared you should be for the short side. Because that is also good psychology for risk management, is because you realize on the long side trade just how bad it could be if it fails. So you don't stick around too long. You say, oh, this little rabbit is going to run. And if it doesn't go this way, it's going the other way. So, you know, or this little squealing pig, or whatever. So, yeah, keep going.
Yeah.
And the same guidance to you about the wait 24 hours and build a little sheet for best thing, worst thing, takeaway, question, surprise. Yeah.
Okay. So I think for now is that my play is that I will short by percent gain.
Yeah.
I will take the top percent gain. I will mainly focus on the long, while for the bottom percent loss, I will take them for the short. No, means that I will mainly if I see that the market is moving down, then basically I will focus on the bottom part, and then I will take the short from there. Yeah.
Yeah, you still got that. You got the 50% coin flip that
Yeah.
pays 2-1 right now. So we're still in good production mode.
Yeah, this is the days that basically during the last week that because yeah, I'm trying to maintain a long only. I don't really take short. Basically, I break even.
Yeah.
And this is the day that there's a rebound day. Well, then this is the last on the Thursday. Well, I decided to take a shot. So yeah. Uh, and one question would be like, I think during the very trending day, I would be no issue. Or some happen in the past that during the mixed day, I do take some both long and short
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
But I find it very difficult for my psychology because I have to focus on I have to kind of remember what are the symbols that go long and
Yeah.
what symbols that go short, and I have to
Yeah.
stop things for
There's the low range oscillating days are hypnotic.
Yeah.
It acts as that's the market trying to hypnotize you with short rocking chair.
Yeah.
It's the baby in the cradle. Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go left, go right, follow this up. Bam, surprise. And then that's what shocks us. So you just have to recognize that the market is also a hypnotist, but one who operates on its own code of ethics. It is there to be a robotic hypnotist and not a trained professional who swore a holy oath to help you. It has not taken the Hippocratic oath to only do good for you with the hypnosis that it's going to apply. That's the difference between the market and its hypnotic behavior and your trained, trusted hypnotherapist. Because remember, a cobra does this to hypnotize the, you know. So that's what those little non-directional days are like. The little choppiness is just setting up the hypnosis, and you got to break that spell by periodically. Let me step out, reset, shot, wait. You know, I like that.
Yeah. So we should do something like what Hava suggests, that basically take only 2 shot and
Yeah,
then check
yeah, yeah.
back and check.
Left, right,
What I
pause.
do, yeah,
Think about the way. Watch a cat walk. 1, 2, set. 1, 2, set. 1, 2, set. Always watching the way a tiger stalks. Tigers are better than lions when it comes to that because they different environment and they're hunting for themselves, so they got to be right. Leopards are good for watching that. Leopards are amazing. So I think
yeah,
that's the mindset to be in. You know, like
yeah,
the way a cat works is different than the way dogs work. Like watch a coyote, the way they're always just they they're not trying to sneak up so much as they're just going to be quicker than you and slowly close the distance until you get tired of fighting. And then they strike. And they have infinite patience. But they don't have the same kind of stealth, maybe, that the deadly cat killers have. But that's who's on the other side of the trade, those guys, you know. That's why for
yeah,
me, the uh resilient badger, the relentless badger. I got the thick skin in case he bites me. Can't get through my skin. And I got the teeth and claws to do my work if you really want to go. Otherwise, I'm going to my objective. You know, do you want a piece of this? I don't think so. You don't want a piece of that. So, yeah, keep going. I like that.
yeah,
That's a good looking chart. You know, that's in Hamad, your dad would appreciate that too. You know, I could see as soon as you pop that up in 2 seconds, I knew exactly where we were and what's going on. Done. That 2 second check in. That's sort of a zero state reminder, isn't it? That's what the zero state produces, is the time and space to get your control charts in there. All right, what else you got, Chewing?
Yeah, that's all for me.
I think we're in good shape, fellas. I uploaded the mindset chart. Let me pull those up real quick, and I just want to talk you through, for the record, what those look like, because I had talked about them with words, but I actually want you to see the
It'll be really good for taking notes.
Yeah.
If you like,
Yeah.
because then you have an idea of what to look at.
Yeah.
And sorry,
Uh,
you said you uploaded the chart. Where did you upload it?
yeah,
Oh,
in
okay.
the files section there's two things. One of them is the mindset. Let's see, share. Two. Yeah, let me know when you see that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is you can actually use this as a visual display of where you are. You always know exactly where you are in this chart. Where you want to be is here, right down the middle. When I redo this chart, I'm going to make this 3 columns. And because where I want to be is in this is where I'm still okay here. I have the slightly optimistic view. Or maybe if I put 4 in there, maybe that's what it is. Yeah. This line right here is when I'm perfectly balanced. This is where I would be in a semi-structured problem state with a fixed mindset. And this is the perfect balance point right in the middle. Let me change that to perfectly balanced. And then if I had 1 unit of, slight positive optimism, that's pretty good. This is about where the maximum positive optimism I can have without going over the red line into the naive optimist. That's not good. I want to try to be here. I can afford a little temporary joy, but don't go over the line. So maybe this is probably 5. And this is kind of the perfect balance. And then a touch of pessimism, maximum allowable pessimism before it becomes dismissive cynic. I don't want to be in either one of those states. I can afford to kind of be in here, but where I want to be is like right there, tipped to that side, and then structured problems, just apply the SOP. Semi-structured problems, get your mind right, quickly choose from among competing alternatives, and then go with a bailout switch on when to know when a plan's not working. And then when it's really wacky, you got to use that creative process to make it tentatively semi-structured. But then I got to see, did I semi-structure it in a useful way? I don't know. I need more evidence to determine that that was the correct way to proceed. And then when it's time to just execute battle drill, quit monkeying around with it, enter the trade, manage the trade according to rules, and there you go. So that whole process, this is the default mindset, fixed, the world is just exactly what it is, zero sum. No, possibility of growth. This one is a transactional mindset that under certain circumstances, I can get some gains. I'll send you more on that. And then the short term current attitude, emotional orientation is naive optimist, dismissive cynic, and then the healthy skeptic somewhere here in the middle. Fair enough? Yeah. Think of this as like if this was a histogram, 1/6 abnormal, 1/3, 1/3, which is really 2 units. So I can succeed anywhere in here. This is my optimal state. Check or hold. Yeah. So I'm going to redraw that. That includes those properly proportioned, or at least I'm going to put words in here. And then I'm going to have another one that just gives me the 7 Likert scale, and it'll be a simple, easy checkbox. I can already see it in my mind. I was sort of, and then any questions on that one?
Yeah, I was gonna say if there are like any criteria that you can use to measure.
Oh
like
yeah,
to
I
be
have
a-
those. Yeah, I have those. Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
I had the
because
AI write me like 10 questions to help you figure out what kind of problem category am I in. Then 10 questions to help me come up with what's my mindset by default. And then some criteria for am I optimistic, skeptic, or cynic? What's my mindset? After you read those things, after a while, you know what they are. You can trust your intuition to put you right exactly where you need to be. Like once I understand my dashboard, the operator's manual, I can drive the car just looking at the dynamic little thing. So like this is where I want to be. Or here. That's actually. I don't want to be out here. That's too far. So anyway, that's coming. Now this one, I'm going to have a kid write a master's thesis that turns this into a trainable game. So we've talked about VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. This is VUCA prime. And I spelled this wrong. So volatility is counteracted by having a vision of how to navigate the waves. And understanding allows me to offset uncertainty. And clarity lets me overcome the challenges of a complex process. And agility allows me to react in time when things are ambiguous. So if I did a quick, so if I know I have a indicator, what are the 5 things that tell you where you are on vision and where you are in volatility? And this would be the state where you've perfectly balanced. You've offset the challenge of volatility with your capability in vision. Then there are things that you can do to counterattack and make volatility less, to defeat volatility. And then there are things that you can do to protect against volatility's attack. So imagine this was a giant organization and we were spending money and energy to decide how we were going to prepare to win this battle of VUCA Prime against VUCA. I'm going to have the Rand Corporation develop this into an executive training program. And then I'm going to have them build a war game that allows AIs to compete in that world so we can decide which AI we're going to buy to be a guide to our commanders. But this is, you saw it here first. That's going to be a double secret probation model. So imagine you are the trail boss. You're the chief of staff and you're responsible for getting the wagon train with all the families from the safety across dangerous territory to the land of milk and honey. You got to improve the people in our skills as we go, but you can't lose sight of the mission, which is to get there. And the way you do that is by having one person specialize in each one of these independent variables. Because the danger to you is multiplication. Like if it's extremely volatile and maximum uncertainty and extraordinarily complex and very ambiguous, man, that's a bad day at Flat Rock. Don't trade on that day. Reversion to the mean in nature says that even if you don't do anything, nature itself, consisting of the sum total of people, wants to pull it back to the mean. It can only stay there if the opponent is actively engaging in volatile behavior, but you get worn out. So you got to know what are the characteristics of volatility and then reversion to the mean. We go through moments of uncertainty and then we learn things. Sometimes we really understand things a lot. I'd at least like to be this. I'd like to start tipping the scale in my favor. This is really good. This is danger of ego and curve fitting. You know, there's no advantage here. This is where I start getting an edge. This is my maximum edge. This is danger of too much. That's your Z2, Z minus 2, zero state. I'd like to be here, first position, second position, careful, harvest, get paid. Yeah, but what if it goes beyond a range stat? Okay, well, okay, you win. You didn't deserve it. That's your manageable range, is between Z2 and Z minus 2. And you got to contend with all of those. God, I spelled defense wrong too. Shoot, I got to fix that. Yeah. So that's the insight. The last one I'm just going to show you is a work in progress that I started this morning as we were talking, just to keep my hands busy. And that has to do with this one. This is your NDX. This one right here. Yeah. All right, I'm almost done. Yeah, so the max pain range compression is when you have abnormally small volatility, which is this one, and maximum oversold. So I'm going to turn that into a little screenshot and say what I want is I want this oversold and abnormally small inside your 10-day range. That's all you need. That's your prime time. All right, fellas, that's everything I got. We'll get this published. I am being paged, and I know the sound of a directive. We're gonna go. My daughter completed her second week of med school. Did good on her first test. We're gonna go eat some pancakes, maybe.
Congratulations to your daughter, and thanks for the help today.
Yep. Take good care, fellas.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
See you.